So students, your chapter number 2 is Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. And student, in this chapter you have to read and learn about the age of social change, the Russian Revolution, the February Revolution in Petrograd, and what changed after October, and the global influence of the Russian Revolution and the USSR. So, first topic is the age of social change. So, students, the all over the Europe, people inspired by the French Revolution and many new ideas about individual rights and social changes began to be discussed in Europe and Asia. And at the same time, responses to complete social changes varied in Europe. And three different views or groups of the people sprouted up, and they were divided into the liberals, radicals, and conservatives. So students, liberals were the followers of the tolerance to religions, and they were opposed uncontrolled powers of dynastic rulers, but they safeguarded rights of individuals, and they were not Democrats as they believed in voting rights to property men, but they were opposed or against the voting rights to women. And radicals were the followers of government based on majority of country's population, but they opposed privileges of wealthy factory owners and landlords, and they disliked concentration of wealth in few hands, but they were supported women suffragette movement, or they were in favor of voting rights to women. Okay, after that, conservatives. So students, earlier conservatives opposed the idea of change, but later they accepted some changes, and they believed in preserving and respecting past. And after some time they wanted some change, but at a slow pace. All right, after that, next topic is industrial society and social change. So students, in Europe, new cities rose with the Industrial Revolution. Men and women and children started to work in factories, but working hours were so long with low wages. And due to the low demand, it led to unemployment. And students, rapidly growing towns faced housing and sanitation problems, and students, liberals and radicals rallied around these issues and wanted revolutions. All right, after that, next topic is the coming of socialism to Europe. So students, socialism as an idea attracted attention in Europe by mid-19th century, and it opposed private property and supported collective social interest. And they had different visions of future, and these are: point number one, some believed in setting up of cooperatives through individual initiative. And point number 2, while others wanted government to encourage cooperative to replace capitalist, and this gave birth to the idea of communist society. Alright. After that, next topic is support for socialism. So student, in this topic you have to read and learn that spread of socialist ideas through Europe led to the formation of Second International, and association of workers like Social Democratic Party and Labour Party began to be formed in England and Germany to improve working and living conditions of workers and also for the people. Alright. So for this, funds to begin to be raised to help member workers of the Social Democratic Party and Labour Party in difficult times. After that, demands for reducing work hours and right to vote started by these two groups of workers. Alright? And ideas of socialists did shape legislation, but they never succeeded in forming government in Europe. And on the other hand, conservatives, liberals and radicals continue to form government. Alright. After that, your next topic is the Russian Revolution. So students, the Russian Revolution refers to decline of monarchy in February 1917 and led to revolutionary events in October 1970. Alright. After that, next topic is the Russian Empire in 1914. So students, Tsar Nicholas II ruled Russia along with present-day Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, parts of Poland, Ukraine and Belarus. And student, it further stretched to present-day Central Asia, Georgia, Armenia and Azerbaijan. Alright. So students, Russian Orthodox Christianity along with Catholics, Protestants, Muslims and Buddhists comprise the major religions in all over the Russia. Alright. After that, your next topic is economy and society. So students, 85% of the Russian economy was sustained or dependent on the agriculture activity. Industries were very few that time, and in 1890s, with the expansion of Russian rail network, foreign investment in industries increased and industries were privately owned and large factories were under government supervision. But factory rules were broken in craft units and small workshops. It means whatever rules and regulation made by the government of Russia, they were all not followed by the small craft industries and in small workshops. Okay? And students, workers too were divided by skill as a social group. And for instance, metal workers were considered as aristocrats as they were more trained and skilled among the workers. And despite divisions, workers were united about dismissals and work conditions. Okay? And students, peasants were the next social group who cultivated land owned by nobility, crown, and Orthodox Church. Peasants were divided along religious lines but united against nobility. And peasants' community was called commune or mead. And they pooled their land together and later divided it on the basis of needs of individual family. Understood? After that, your next topic is socialism in Russia. So students, before 1914, all political parties were illegal in Russia. And the Russian Social Democratic Workers' Party, formed in 1898, operated secretly with its newspapers and mobilized workers. And Russian peasants, in the eyes of Russian socialists, were to be the main force of revolution. And students, and socialists in the countryside formed the Socialist Revolutionary Party in 1900, pressing the peasants' rights and demanded land from nobles to be given to peasants. After that, Social Democrats differed from Socialist revolutionaries, and Lenin, who was a Social Democrat, wanted disciplined party with quality members, and he led the Bolshevik group. And another group, Mensheviks, wanted party to be opened to all. Understood? After that, next topic is the 1905 revolution. So students, the Russians followed autocracy where Tsar was not responsible to the parliament. And liberals wanted to end this state of affairs, and they joined hands with social democrats and socialist revolutionaries and demanded a constitution. All right. And in year 1904 was the worst for Russian workers, because prices of essential goods increased with decline in wages, and workers were dismissed that called for industrial action. So students, strikes demanding reduction of working hours, increase in wages, and improvement in working conditions by the workers. So after that, workers led by Father Gapon were attacked by police and killing hundreds. So students, this came to be known as Bloody Sunday and started the 1905 revolution. After that, students, there were countryside strikes started by students and workers also, and they all walk out from their work. After that, under widespread revolution, Tsar allowed creation of an elected consultative parliament or Duma. Okay? So, students, political activities were restricted by Tsar, suspended first Duma, and installed conservative backed second Duma. And in new or second Duma, still liberals and revolutionaries were kept out. Alright. After that, your next topic is the First World War and the Russian Empire. So, students, the First World War began in 1914 between Central Powers like Germany, Austria, Turkey, and France, Britain. After that, Russia, later joined by Italy and Romania. Students, it means the First World War began in 1914 between Central Powers, Germany, Austria and Turkey, and France, Britain, Russia, later joined by Italy and Romania. Alright. So students, Tsar Nicholas II, without consulting Duma, had become a part of the war. So students, due to the war, Russia suffered shocking defeats along with heavy casualties, and the Russian economy was badly hit with cut-off supplies and breaking of industrial equipments, labor shortage, and shut down small workshops. So students, due to the war, people faced scarcity of bread and flour also. Alright. After that, next topic is the February Revolution in Petrograd. So students, in winter of 1917 made the conditions in the capital worse with food shortage in workers' quarters, and workers staged a protest against factory lockout with strikes and also joined by women. And student, this event marked the International Women's Day. After that, cavalry and police was called to restrict demonstrators, and Duma was again suspended, and demonstrators ransacked police headquarters and raised slogans, or you can say in another word that demonstrators started to destroy police headquarters and raised slogans. And finally, cavalry also refused to fire on demonstrators, and many regiments joined striking workers, and it's led to the formation of Soviet. After that, a provincial government was formed and Constituent Assembly elected by universal adult suffrage. And finally, monarchy was brought down in 1970. Okay? After that, next topic is after February. So student, process for an elected government, restrictions on public meetings and associations lifted, and after some time later, Lenin returned from exile in 1917, and release of Lenin's April thesis. and Bolshevik Party renamed Communist Party. So students within Bolsheviks leaders differed on the issue of revolution and workers' movement began, trade union also grew, and students seeing its power and influence reduced, provincial government took stern step to curb Bolsheviks. And in rural areas also peasants influenced by socialist revolutionary seized land. And students, the Lenin April thesis was a document of 10 points presented to the April conference of Bolshevik by Vladimir Lenin in 1917. And the main points of the April thesis were to focus Bolshevik efforts on opposing the provisional government and promote a socialist revolution and also lay the groundwork for a proletariat-led government. Alright. After that, next topic is October Revolution 1917. So students, intense conflict between the provisional government and Bolsheviks grew. Fearing the setting up of dictatorship by provisional government, Lenin thought of an uprising. So, sacred plan of action was devised for seizing power. And finally, the uprising began on 24 October 1917 with both the sides trying to consolidate power. And it ended with all Russian Congress of Soviets in Petrograd approving the Bolshevik action. And after the having fighting in other cities, Bolsheviks took hold of Moscow and Petrograd by December. These all events are related to the October Revolution 1917. Alright. After that, next topic is what changed after October. So students, private property was opposed, industries and banks were nationalized, and land was declared social property, and large houses partitioned as per family requirement, and old titles of aristocracy banned. Bolshevik Party renamed as the Russian Communist Party, and Lenin dismissed the assembly after failing to gain majority support in elections to Constituent Assembly. And finally, Russia became one-party state. After that, trade unions were kept under vigilance, and those who criticized Bolsheviks were punished by secret police Cheka. And many Bolshevik followers became disillusioned by the way the party functioned. After that, next topic is the Civil War. So students, land redistribution policy of Bolsheviks created chaos or confusion, and soldiers wished to return home to get land. Non-Bolsheviks, liberals and supporters of autocracy gave tough time to Bolsheviks. And due to the growth of socialism in Russia, began to be feared by the French, the Americans, the British and the Japanese. So Bolshevik, with the support of non-Russian nationalists and jihadists, tried to consolidate power. And students' confusion over Bolshevik policies began to spread. And amidst the civil war, Bolsheviks created Soviet Union or USSR in December 1922. All right. After that, next topic is making a socialist society. So students, in this topic you have to learn that centralized planning was introduced with the introduction of 5-year plans, and economic growth began with increased industrial production. Life of people was full of hardship with poor working conditions, and schooling system was modified. Factory workers and peasants could also enter universities, and factory workers and also for children, a nursery created for the take care of the workers' children during the working hour or working day. Okay, and also public health care was taken care of, and model living quarters was set up for workers. All right. Next topic is Stalinism and collectivization. So student, in this topic you have to prepare that planned economy brought with it some disasters, and one such disaster was collectivization of agriculture. Russia faced acute shortage of food grains, and government proposed to fix prices which the peasant refused to abide with. And Stalin targeted rich peasants and traders in rural areas who supposedly hold stocks for getting high prices. So, collective farming or kolkhoz was introduced, and state-controlled large farms were established, and profit was shared among peasants. And students, many who resisted collectivization were severely punished, deported, and exiled also. So students, collectivization showed no increase in production, and on the other hand, bad harvest led to severe famine in Soviet history. Due to all this above, criticism within the party increased, and many were forced to make for false confessions. They faced torture and executions. Finally, last topic of this chapter is the global influence of the Russian Revolution and the USSR. So students, though Bolsheviks were criticized the way they worked, and they were popular across the world, and Communist Party began to be formed around the world, and many flocked to USSR to receive education in communist universities. And socialism also received a global presence and admiration. And students, no doubt, USSR became a great power with developed industries and agriculture. But basic freedom for its people was absent. whatever development was carried out with repression, and socialist ideas were rethought around the world. So students, here the revision of Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution, chapter number 2, is finally over. Please listen my revision and explanation carefully, and if you have any doubt, please contact me. Alright, thank you and have a nice day.